be here. I'm so glad to be back. And here. Thank you. I see some of my books. I knew I sold 3 or 4 books in Iowa. Thank you, folks. And it's great to be with Craig. He's done a great job. We've been able to do a bunch of events together down in Florida and across the country. This is the final stretch here, about 11 and a half days left, and we're going to talk about that in a moment. But I wanted to share with you a couple of things about Iowa. First of all, I love this part of the country. I came up to this part of the country back in northwest Missouri in 1989. There was a small school back then named Clark College. It was the only place in America that would allow me to play football for their college. So I came, and I don't know if you know this, but I was going to play in the National Football League had it not been for my lack of size, speed, and talent. I would have done so. But anyway, I came up here, and so I remember people telling me, it gets really cold in the Midwest and in northwest Missouri. And I said, I know. I've been to 50-degree weather. I know what cold is. So I'll never forget one morning I woke up. It was 70 degrees. The weather was. I said, there's a storm coming in. Temperature's going to drop. You have your cold weather gear. I said, I sure do. My cold weather gear, being from Miami, it was basically sweatpants and a windbreaker. Well, literally overnight, I went to sleep. I woke up in the morning. I looked outside, and there was snow like to my waist. And so I took a shower like I normally did, and I went outside with my hair wet, my hair froze. And then my lips started to crack, and so anyway, I've learned my lessons. I've got my chapstick. So then, a few months ago, I was supposed to be here about 9 weeks ago, and we were coming over from Nevada, and then our plane had to make an emergency landing in Albuquerque, New Mexico. As it turns, so I was in New Mexico yesterday, and I thank New Mexico for saving my life. But anyway, we finally made it back, and I'm glad to be here because your state's going to play a pivotal role, not just in this election, but in many other elections, including some of the important congressional races that you have. I know Congressman King is on the ballot. He needs to be reelected. And I hope you guys are doing anything. You've got some important issues on the ballot as well, some important judicial races. We encourage you to get involved in those. But I'm here today to talk to you about the important race of the presidency and the role that this state is going to play. Now, we know this state kind of plays an important role every 4 years. You probably don't know that, but you do. Every 4 years, you help us select the nominee in both parties, and we thank you for that, the role that you traditionally played. But this year, you're going to play an important role in the general election as well. And I don't know of any other state in the country whose people more fundamentally understand the threat that this national debt poses to our country than folks in Iowa do. Our national debt cannot be overstated. It is $15 trillion. It is the size of our economy. Oftentimes when I talk to people about the debt, they'll ask me, well, the debt is bad. I understand why it's bad. But what does it have to do with my job? What does it have to do with the economy? And here's what it has to do with your job and the economy. Number one, the way businesses are created is when someone takes money that they have access to and they use it to open up a new business. The money has to come from somewhere. And so every penny that's going into government debt is a penny that's not available for investment in the private sector. The other thing about the debt is that it scares people about investing in our future. When you have a country that has a $15 trillion debt and growing, with no plan in place to turn it around, people are afraid to invest because they know that that money is going to have to be paid back in the future. Why do people invest money in business? Because they want to make a profit. They want to make a return on their investment. But if they think that a country is destined for catastrophic tax rates in the future, they don't invest the money in that country. And that's where we're headed under this president. So the fundamental reason why it's so important that Mitt Romney win this election is, number one, he understands the free enterprise system. That whole thing about how businesses get started, that's common sense to you and me. But we have a president that doesn't believe that. He doesn't fundamentally understand that the way jobs and prosperity are created is when someone who has access to money, instead of leaving it in the bank or under their mattress somewhere, invests it in a new business and creates jobs for other people. So that's the first reason why we need a new president. And the other reason why we... That's right. You mean the government didn't build this hangar? Okay. Anyway, the other reason is because we have a president that has no plans for the future. Now, just yesterday, he finally released some pamphlet. It was a glossy pamphlet of ideas.
Nothing in it.
Well, it's the same ideas from before. They are the ideas that have always failed everywhere they've ever been tried. They are the ideas of countries that people come here to get away from. His agenda is an agenda that's never worked. It's an agenda of big government domination of your economy. Now, the government has a role to play. We understand that. But when government goes beyond its role, it creates more problems than it solves. And so we desperately need to get back to a president and to a government that understands its proper role in our economy. There's only one person running for president that does. Now, why does that matter? In the big scheme of things, it matters for three different reasons. Number one is because we have the opportunity. We have the opportunity to make the 21st century the most prosperous time in American history. As hard as that is to believe, the promise of the 21st century is real. Extraordinary innovations in American energy mean that all of a sudden, American manufacturing is on the verge of returning to America. Manufacturing is on the verge of returning to America. We are on the verge of a renaissance for American manufacturing. After years of losing these jobs overseas because of labor costs, the lowering of the cost of energy in America through an all of the above strategy means that suddenly the ability to build things in America is cost effective again, and doing so with the most productive workers in the world, here in America. The second reason why it matters is because the world is a safer and a better place when America is the strongest country in the world, both militarily and economically. American strength, pay no attention to that sound, the second sound of the government plane. That's here to distract you from our message. They do that to me at all our events. The second reason why it matters is because the world is a better place when America is the strongest country in the world. It's a safer place. I was startled the other night to hear the President of the United States compare the United States Navy to a bayonet or a horse. As if somehow naval power is an antiquated idea of the last century. Well, there's a reason why China is investing a bunch of money in anti-ship missiles. There's a reason why China is trying to build an aircraft carrier. It's because they understand that whoever controls the sea controls the commerce. And what American naval power has meant for the last 100 years is that the seas have been open for everyone to freely trade and become prosperous. But last but not least, I'll tell you why this matters. Because America is the exception, not the rule. When people say America is exceptional, let me tell you what that means. That means that for almost the entire history of the world, everyone was poor and everyone was powerless. And everyone had really loud planes behind them. For almost all the history of the world, everyone was poor and everyone was powerless. It was the same people over and over again who were successful. That started changing 200 years ago on this continent, when some extraordinary man wrote on a piece of paper that turned out to be the Declaration of Independence that all of us have certain rights that we get from our God, not from our government. And that principle led to a system of economics. A system of economics which tells us, in the American Free Enterprise system, which tells us that all of us should have the opportunity to go as far as our talent and our work will take us. And the result is the most prosperous nation in human history. The broadest and the greatest middle class that has ever existed. This is the exception, not the rule. This is not what the human condition has been like. This makes us different and better than the rest of the world. I think they're leaving. I guess they didn't like the speech. That's all right. Anyway. And that's what's at stake right now. You know, I believe in these principles so deeply because of how I grew up. My parents were never rich. And that's interesting to say because understand that every country in the world has rich people. And unfortunately, every country in the world has poor people. But in America, we have something called the middle class and the working class. My dad was a bartender at hotels in Las Vegas and in Miami. My mom was a maid, a stock clerk, at Kmart, a cashier. My parents had jobs because someone risked their money to start a business. And because they had jobs, they were able to raise us in strong and stable homes where we were encouraged to dream big dreams and were given the opportunity to pursue them. What makes America special is that my story is not unique. It's your story, it's the story of millions of people all over this country, and it's what we're fighting to preserve. And when we elect a president, we need a president that understands it and believes in the principles that led to that result. And that's why I feel so passionately about Mitt Romney's candidacy. Because in addition to being an extraordinary person, and he is, if you look at the way he has lived his life as a father, as a husband, as a member of his community, as a businessman, as an elected official, as a public servant, he is a model American. The kind of person we all wish our kids would grow up to be like. I'm not here to tell you the president's a bad person, but he's a bad president. And that's why, in addition to having a very unique person running for the office of presidency, because of his unique personal talents, he understands and believes in the American free enterprise system. Mitt Romney has seen an idea become a business, and a business create prosperity. He has seen people come to him with nothing but a really good idea, and been given the chance to put that idea into reality, and what that's meant for all the families that work in these businesses. And so not only does he believe in the American free enterprise system, he understands how it works. And never in the modern history of this country have we needed a president that understands the American free enterprise system more than we need right now. The president will want this race. The president will want this race to be about all kinds of other things. And so that's why he deliberately pits us against each other. It's men versus women, rich versus poor, class versus class, even geography. For no reason. We have never been a country of people that believed that the way we climb the economic ladder is to pull someone else down. We have never been a people that believe that the only way we can be better off is for someone else to be worse off. We have never believed that. That is not who we are, and that is not who we're going to be. Who we are is a nation that believes all of us can be better off. A nation that believes the economy can always be bigger and more prosperous. That all of us can be better off economically. That all of us can be more stable. That the economy can always grow to make all of us more prosperous and our future better. That's still possible. But we need the right people leading our country. And that's what Iowa has a chance to do in this election. We know because the polls tell us that the race here will be very close. We know the president has invested a tremendous amount of money and time in his grassroots operation here. But we have the best volunteers in America here in Iowa. We have people that know how to work campaigns and know how to get their neighbors out to vote. We have people that understand how exceptional America is and are willing to do whatever it takes to ensure that the next president of the United States is someone that does as well. And so, what I'm asking you to do is keep doing what you're doing times 10, as hard as that is to believe. With 12 days left to go, I promise you Mitt Romney's working harder than any of us. He's on a plane right now giving speeches in every state you can imagine. I'm sure he'll be here before the election is over. I think he was here a couple days ago.
Tomorrow.
See, I told you so. And we have to do our part. Every single one of us knows someone who isn't going to go vote unless we make them go vote. They want to vote, but don't forget, unless you get them in your car and drive them, they're not going to go do it. So I encourage you, when you leave here today, identify 2 or 3 people that you know are on our side but may not vote unless you get them there, and get them there. Because I promise you, if we win Iowa, we will win the presidency, and Mitt Romney will be the next president.